Right, very big warm welcome to you. You're joining us on Insight tonight. And as is our custom, as is something we like to do on this platform, we like to talk about your environment, where you and I live, looking after this planet and making sure it looks after us and our future generations. And tonight I'm joined by two exceptional young people who are here to talk to us about the work that they're doing, their understanding of this world, and give us a few tips, perhaps, or toolkit of what we can do to contribute to making the planet better for everyone of us. Karibuni sana. Now we have, wait, you didn't have these glasses when we started out.
Now I do.
Now you do. Can you actually see?
I can see you.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I can. So we have Paul Mutuku Kaluki, Karibu sana. You're from something called Keen International.
Yes.
All right, you're the director, I believe.
I'm the executive director.
Executive director. Karibu sana, welcome to the Home of Untold Stories. And then we have Daniel Kirongodi,
yes.
Right? You're from something called the Global Landscapes Forum, but Nairobi version, yeah?
Yes.
You'll tell us a little bit about that.
Okay.
Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
Straight off, Daniel, talk to me a little bit about this. What is the GLF and what do you guys do?
So GLF, Global Landscapes Forum, is, as it said, global platform that basically connects grassroots organizations, which are organizations that are actually actively participating in environmental activities, to international stakeholders, donors, and basically just availing the resources they need to actually implement this kind of projects. So I am the fundraising and partnerships director.
So the money guy.
So I'm the money guy.
Money guy.
And the networks guy.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is the money guy and networks.
Yeah.
What about you, Kaluki? What do you do at Keen International?
Yes, so Keen International is an international non-profit. We started in 2020, and the whole point is, number one, Africa has resources, and young people are one of the biggest resources. Indigenous communities in Africa are also one of the biggest resources. So we bring together all these amazing solutionists from the ground to actually have a place where they belong, and then we discuss issues on climate change and discuss the solutions that we actually need to deliver both at the grassroots level, but also at the national, regional, and global scale. So we do have a few programs that we work with them to ensure that we actually front the case for young people in Kenya and Africa to the rest of the world, and also really trying to bring that narrative that Africa is not a poor, the dark continent. Africa has more resources, it has solutions, and it has some brighter future. So we need to also, put that message forward. And so Keen comes in to just push that positive narrative and ensuring that you actually tell the world the new perspectives about the Africa that you want.
Right. And I mean, you've both of you have touched a little bit on that in your introduction, but talk to us about what need is there that requires people like you to step in? What gap did you see that prompted you to want to do this, dedicate your life and your time to doing this? Let's start with you, Daniel.
I think, first of all, I should start by saying I'm not even an environmental professional. I am an architect by profession in the youth. So the gap came, and the gap I noticed is we have a lot of people in Kenya. I think we're a very environmental conscious country to start with, but we lack the resources to actually implement a lot of things. And resources is not even limited to money. Sometimes it's knowledge. Sometimes it's even who are the actors, who are the stakeholders, like awareness, basically. So we just here to, the gap basically came about with that knowledge, the lack of knowledge and awareness of how exactly to move to create impactful change. Because I will plant a tree in my compound, but who will plant a tree in the park? Who plants the trees in the forests? Who plants the trees in the national parks? Who reclaims the environment when infrastructure destroys it? So the gap has come from that, and as youth, people would want to execute it, but how do we really go about it? So that's where now organizations like mine and Kaluki's come in. We basically try to avail all those things because the Global North basically have a lot of research and information on this, and they just got it from here. A lot of the sites are here. So so it's basically we're just bringing back what they've understood about our nature home. Yeah.
Right. What about you, Kaluki? What's your perspective on where the gap is and why you need to step in?
Two things for me. The first is actually the late Professor Angari Mathai. And maybe you've heard it so many times that she's my icon. She's, my inspiration. But actually, she is for me. As a child, seeing Wangari Maathai fighting for the environment, and at that time, it's almost all the people that are actually out in the streets. You never saw many young people joining them. And so I made it my life mission to actually pursue environmental science and undertake some environmental practice, and that's what I'm doing right now. So that's one of the gaps that I saw, actually making a case for young people to see environmental conservation as a fancy, sexy, and a modern thing for you to make a career out of. And the other thing is to why actually we even started Kinos around 2019, 2020. There is the rise of this, what I call the climate celebrities in Africa, that actually, the Fridays for Futures movement and a lot of these campaigns will come, and you'll simply just get bored in the day or in your bedroom, and you just write some placard that, the oceans are rising so away, and that
the earth is dying.
Yeah, so actually, at times there is no message behind it or inspiration, but you just write it and then you become a keyboard warrior, And so we founded Kin with my co-founder Kevin Mtai to actually help eliminate that show young people it's not enough to just be a keyboard warrior. Actually do something on the ground, and it's not a bad thing for you to actually do social media advocacy, but it needs to be informed, it needs to have a structure, it needs to have a foundation that then helps even our policymakers and leaders see the essence as to why we are doing advocacy and campaigns. So those two things are the gaps that we saw and we are trying to close through our projects.
So from what you're saying, I'd like to put both of you on the spot.
Okay.
One of the criticisms of people in the space that you're in is that you're very big on theory. You're very colorful words, NGO speak, so to speak, the NGO language, But then on the ground, all will be said, but nothing will be done. After all is said and done, nothing, So what we need, and I believe what the people who are watching, and even the young people that you represent, what we need to hear, talk to us about how, and I hope both of you have been able to do this, how you can separate yourself from that echo chamber where experts are talking to other experts about the same thing, that you all agree the planet is dying, you all agree we need to do this, we need funding. So all of you, how do you separate from that space where everything is theoretical to actual practical implementation on the ground where we can see a change? 10 months ago, there were no trees here. It was bare. Now we are seeing trees. A year and a half ago, this place was like this. Now we're seeing a change. Landscapes.
Yes.
This was bare. Now no longer.
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you break away from that? Daniel.
I think first of all, I will also highlight something. It's not that these things are new. It's not that there's nothing new we are doing under the sun, actually. It's something we call communication silos. We have very great small groups, volunteer groups, CBOs, sometimes large NGOs doing very good work. And the issue is coverage. There are people in the coast, there's a lot of mangrove restoration. In the atolls, the semi-arid landscapes, there's a lot of restoration from invasive species of plants. There's a lot of impactful social work being done by collaborative, now non-environmental CBOs to try and just mitigate all this. The issue is not really that there's something new or something to remove yourself from. It's actually, we need to immerse ourselves even more, because the argument here is not whether work is being done. It's just the way you said, we need to see it. So the only way we can see it is actually put ourselves there and actually come to the ground. And that's why we were calling them grassroots organizations. They are doing the work. They're actually doing the work. They're executing, they're changing their communities one tree at a time, one wasteland, one landfill being cleared at a time. So the issue here is not really whether we need to put ourselves out. We need to immerse ourselves even more, cover it, and now make it known to the world that we do not need your theoretical solutions. We just need you to see how we are doing and actually what we need. There's this process, part of the process of how we go about with community projects, we do something called a local dialogue, where you would try to come up with a set of questions and go to that community saying, oh, these guys are in the asphalt, so their problem is water. So you'll find they've already had, they are 20 steps ahead of you. So if you thought that that's what you're going to avail to them, you're going to build them, I don't know, a borehole. Some of them have found a way to get wells. Some of them have found ways to combat that. So you find if you have a preconceived notion as to what the problem is there without actually going there, that's where you go wrong, and that's where the resources look like they're not really doing anything. Communities are their own lifeblood and they're their own sustenance. So that you just need to cover what they're doing. And now if you can make it known to the world what this is happening here, that is actually what needs to be taken from them. Well, that's what the experts need to understand. And that's what the experts actually end up now having their own discussions, because it's all theoretical. But in real life, on the ground, it works. For them, for the local community, maybe it needs to be tweaked when it's taken elsewhere. But so the only thing we need to avoid is a cut and paste. But in terms of immersing ourselves, I would really not argue into taking ourselves from it. We need to put ourselves inside. Yeah, thank you.
Right. Wow. You were nodding.
Yeah.
Well, they say the teacher is happy when the student is experting them.
Right.
Yeah, I think the question is, how do we then move from the boardroom to the ground, right?
To the ground, yes.
So I'll ask you to give me some time to explain. I'll use some few examples and actually what we've done to implement and actualize some of these so-called theories on the ground.
Right.
And I start by saying, if you go on my social media, one of the things I put on my profiles is like I push for meaningful engagement of African youth and African communities. And I've walked the talk since about 3 years ago. Until recently, I was an Africa director of a global organization called Youth for Nature. And it's literally a global youth group that empowers young people to be leaders of today and tomorrow, and we, give them the capacities to lead on solutions for the climate and biodiversity crisis. One of the projects I'm proud to really have implemented and fundraised for is called Inuka, of course, Swahili for Rising Up, and it's based on nature-based solutions. Actually, then how we understand that communities and young people at the local level better understand the environment around them, right? But also they understand the challenges that these environments are facing, or what them as a community are actually doing to impact it negatively. But they also know what it is that they can actually do to reverse it to a better state. So through Inuka, we've been able to fundraise to almost $500,000 US to then conduct impact training for them to, enhance their skills on nature-based solutions as an approach to restoration. And then we pair them with mentorships and, cross-country site visits that allow them to actually see how different restoration approaches are being conducted across, Kenyan landscapes. And then lastly, through the Inuka program, we also, allowed them micro-granting of up to $10,000. And to me, this is showing how we can trust young people and communities with resources, and especially financing. It's very hard for young people to implement solutions, At times, you cannot implement on an empty stomach. You need to empower these people and give them the money. So Inuka is also giving them micro-grants to be able to actually scale the work they're doing on the ground, but also beyond just restoring, how do you also craft some livelihood options for you to then actually get through that? You're protecting the environment on one side, but also creating some sustainable business ventures that then move you away from perpetual fundraising and donor dependency all through. Yeah. So that's one project we've been able to do.
Okay.
And then I'll quickly just mention about another one called the Africa Youth Caravan to COP. So we, through Kin International, we also host that one. And ideally, it's also knowing that Africans have the solutions, just like Daniel mentioned. So then we actually fundraise to look out for some of these amazing projects that are doing across Africa. And through the year, we always reach out and have open calls where they apply to tell us what they're doing. And then we'll go to them, we invite them, we vet them, and we organize some sub-regional workshops for them. And then lastly, we organize a delegation. We select a delegation that we take to the climate conferences. And the whole point for us is actually allow them to be closer to power, be closer to the head of states, and actually pitch some of these solutions they're doing, because actually these are what the governments used to report as a progress, but these young people are rarely involved in the process or rarely even engaged if their project is being sold out there. So we do that, and right now we are doing our current fundraising towards COP29, and we hope that we can have more partners who actually support us and actualize this African dream that is led by young Africans and African communities who are doing so much on the ground.
Right. From where both of you sit, and we'll start with you, Kaloki, talk to me about where the gap is with communities particularly. I mean, there's knowledge on one hand, there's all sorts of papers, very intelligent people have written policies and ideas on what to do. There is the lived experience on the ground, the people in Makueni who suffer from flooding when the river breaks its banks because of sand harvesting, among other things, and so on. There's the lived experience. Where is a gap right here? Where is a gap?
Yeah. One thing you realize is, so when you say you're an indigenous person, most people think of you as very backward, right? And to me, I always challenge people by asking them, if you think these people are backward, what explains that the ecosystems around them has been very intact and most of them protected? Think about the case for Mount Elgon. You know, most of the key water towers in this country, a lot of it has been safeguarded because of these indigenous communities. So one of the gaps that I think exists is that ignorance from the so-called educated people and scientists, that you assume a community does not know anything. Yeah? And that perspective also is the second idea, that an outsider thinks you can impose your perceived solutions on a community. We've seen so many NGOs, and maybe you've also seen them, come to this country, and you think that you go to a local community and the solution is to create build a church or build a hospital or dig a borehole for them. And usually what happens is, the community always welcome you, but quote unquote, the moment you're done and you've left, they discard and leave that project. Why? Because outsiders come with this perspective that we own all the projects. We don't have a participatory approach to the solutions of the community. So I think that's a big issue and a gap that is actually impacting our communities. We need to allow communities to lead from the center on the process and actually devise the roadmap to the solutions.
Right. Daniel, you have something to say about that?
Yes. Also, the gap, there's a part you mentioned about knowledge and community. So there's also a gap in knowledge transfer. So we not refute the viability and validity of the theoretical work that researchers are doing, because as I said, most of the time, the test sites and the examples are local. So the issue is, I will not give a local, or rather untrained or professional, a PhD thesis on why we should culture the black soldier fly or something. I need to be able to deconstruct that information to roughly, my theory is, I feel like everything should be able to be understood by an 8-year-old. So we need, the issue is how to translate that heap of massive scientific knowledge into simple things that people can actually just take and apply. Normally how we do things, like we're in our organization, like we're working on a curriculum for local dialogues, so that we teach people, it's basically a summary of we call it the landscape approach, basically a summary of how to execute landscape projects.
And what is that? It's
basically, the landscape approach is basically how...
Put you on the spot. Explain it to me like I'm...
Like your 8-year-old, basically, it's sustainable, so look, it is conscious solutions to...
An 8-year-old doesn't know what
conscious is. Thank you. I would say the landscape approach is basically the various ways that we can apply environmental knowledge into our local systems, into our local context. And that is basically, a lot of it is very illustratory, we found out, because part of the knowledge transfer gap I was telling you is even the language barrier. So at first, our first book was in English. Immediately we did a pilot. We were just told, okay, I am from Kisumu, I have never gone to school, unfortunately, I can't read this. So our second one was very illustratory. It had illustrations.
Oh, pictures.
Pictures, images of people actually doing it, what it should look like when it's done. And we realized a lot of knowledge is, we're very big on how we need to structure knowledge, and we leave out how they would understand it. So the knowledge transfer for me is really the biggest gap. Second context is the misconception that rural landscapes are landscapes. Our urban landscapes are still landscapes. If you go to Kibra, you still need to restore that landscape, because the people still live there. In their small, maybe what people would consider unseemly state, they've created their own systems, they've created their own communities, they are growing their own food sometimes. So we need to study, we need to be able to study how they do it, and then now transfer that knowledge, far, far and wide. Because I mean, if you can grow food on a foot of land, I feel like you're the best agriculturalist. If you don't need a ranch to feed your family, I feel like you've hacked. There's something you've learned that we need to know. So the knowledge transfer for me is the biggest gap, and then the presumptions about what restoration actually is. Like I told you, GLFX Nairobi focuses on Nairobi and its metropolitan area. We do landscape approach outside of it. But a lot of times we always meet communities like in Kariobangi, in Kibra area, and they have so much to offer. You would not even be able to comprehend before you go to site. They have a way of reusing textiles. They have a way of reusing polythene bags. They have a way of harvesting the black soldier flies I was telling you to feed their chicken. So they can grow their Kienyeji chicken just tastes like chicken in the rural areas. They have all this knowledge, and they have all these ways of surviving and actually thriving, and that's what we actually need to see, and we need to help them even further it, because if I can do it, if someone can do it with 1 shilling, what about 1 million? So that is where, for me, I think is the biggest gap, the knowledge transfer. Yeah.
All right. Now, you guys, both very young, long years ahead of you, by the grace of God, and lots of great, brilliant ideas. Talk to me about each of your passion projects and exactly where would you like to see things in, let's say, 5 years? 5 years is a reasonable time. An average tree would grow to a reasonable height in 5 years. 5 years is enough to be able to see a change in an ecosystem or on a landscape, as you're calling it, and so on. 5 years, okay? Crystallize that, five years. Who wants to go first? Paint a picture of what you want to see in 5 years in one of the projects that you're actually working on. And by the way, we will keep tabs. Okay. We'll keep showing Kenyans. Guys, accountability is key.
Yeah, true.
What's your handle?
At Kaluki Paul across social media.
At Kaluki Paul across all social media, X, Instagram.
Yes.
All of
LinkedIn,
them. LinkedIn,
Facebook,
everything.
All that, yeah.
See this man here. Follow him. Make sure what he says here is exactly what he does. If not, tell me. Wherever I'll be, if I'll be here or anywhere else, we'll shine a light on him. This young man as well. What are your handles?
Daniel Kihori on all other social media.
Daniel who?
Daniel Kihori.
Daniel Kihori.
On all other social media.
All social media.
Yes.
It's everything.
Everything, yes.
You've heard him. You're about to hear their manifesto for what they want to do for you and what they want to do for their own communities. You see, these guys are young politicians here. We want to hear them and we'll hold them to account. You have their social media accounts. Tag me in everything. If you notice that they said they would grow 9 million trees, they've only grown 16. Tell me. We'll call them here and we'll hold them to account. Who wants to go first?
Well,
Pet project.
And I think I say
5 years ahead.
And I think I
picture
first said that
as we wind up.
Yes, I say that we are not politicians or political leaders. Politicians political leaders lead.
Okay.
And I think as I give my 5-year plan or vision, I'll quickly just mention one thing that we didn't start with. Nature-based solutions, what is it, right? And to just define it simply, these are actions to actually restore, protect, and sustainably manage our ecosystems, whether they are intact or degraded. And we do this appreciating the fact that we need to ensure human well-being, development, as we do ecosystem restoration. So having benefits both for nature and for communities. Well, in 5 years, I do hope to continue doing my nature-based solutions consultant, since I'm a nature-based solutions consultant, and I've been working on actually fundraising and ensuring we impact communities through actual financing and resourcing them to do scale-up projects.
So how much, you're the money guy, how much money do you want to have raised in 5 years?
Well, hopefully, let's talk about $2 million, because I know I've achieved more than $500,000 up to now. So I do hope 2 million in 2 years, 5 years.
Brilliant. That's
and working to actually transform the landscape in Kenya and Africa.
I absolutely love that. $2 million and actually having that do something. Real quick, what's your 5-year plan.
5-year plan to have a financial platform where youth can be able to actually now do all these things just from an app, access the donors, make your case, defend yourself, do your pitches, and receive your funding directly.
And
so that,
activate.
yeah, the only thing for me would be the eligibility criteria would, if I can refine that in the next maybe 1 year, that thing is on in the next maybe, it's the same year, I could launch it. I think I was discussing with him, I plan on calling it Granted. So,
Granted.
yeah, so Granted, by 5 years, we should have maybe $20 million given to different organizations.
I love the ambition on the ground here.
Yeah.
We're out of time.
Yes.
But you are not out of time.
Yeah.
You still have work to do.
Yeah,
we will keep you accountable.
Thank you so much.
When you raise that money, let me know. We'll give you a platform to tell us how you're doing that.
Yeah.
But good people, this is just one conversation. It's a microcosm. It's a small thing out of a much, much bigger conversation about our planet, our environments, where we live and where our children will live and their children will live. We all need to pay attention to this. We all need to plug in. We all need to put in a shift. And these guys are doing their bit. They're the money people. They're putting together the money to help us to do what we've got to do. What is your little thing? You must recognize that. It's from your mentor. What is your little thing that you can do to make this environment better for the rest of the world? My name is Victor Muyakane. I wish to leave you in the hands of VAR, a supercharged, turbocharged sports show with Duncan Askofu coming up right next after this. But from me and my guests, it's good night and God bless you.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.